What's happening, Sly Gang? I have to say that over these past couple of months, Capcom has been releasing the future menu that is going to be coming to us gamers over the next couple of months, next year or so. And I gotta say, after seeing these, we are eating good, brother. As of the recording this, I just watched the Capcom Fighting Collection 2 announcement trailer, and good gracious alive. In 2025, they are finally acknowledging many of the old fighting games that gamers have loved, and I think that this is a good sign because it may indicate some of the new projects that they have up and coming. There has been this revival that has been occurring when you look at the Atari games, when you look at Sega, and a couple of these old school, old head gaming companies that are really bringing back some of their older series, really paying some homages, and really noticing some of the trends of things that people have liked. And I think that aspect of it is really cool. I think that it is quite hopeful. We have that trailer right here, right now, and I want to look at it a little bit and talk a little bit about what we're seeing here. So here's the trailer. It's over on the Street Fighter YouTube channel. If you want to go check it out yourself, you can check it out in the link in the description that I will post. I'm pretty much going to just jump around in the video so that you can see some of the highlights. I'm not going to show all of it so that you can go and give that video some love. So let Capcom know that you're excited about this, if this is something that you're into. Because this is some exciting stuff. Just right off of the bat, you already see that they're harkening back CVS 2, Capcom vs. SNK. Both editions right there. One of the things that I am super excited about, the Power Stone games. Can I get a shout out for the Power Stone games? Because no one seems to acknowledge that these games exist. And Project Justice? Okay, we already saw some of the love by bringing Akira to Street Fighter V late in the game. We already know that there has been some young blood that loves classic Capcom fighting games that have infused new life into these. Street Fighter 6 is such an homage to the series of Street Fighter and to many of the Capcom fighting games. You actually can see in the Metro City, the square there, that they actually have all of the Capcom fighting games laid out on the cement. I'm going to try and get a clip of that and put it into the video. But you're actually seeing people who are giving these homages to these classic Capcom fighting games, and I think that's most evident in the Capcom Fighting Collection 2 announcement trailer. I think that's one of the most awesome things about this entire process, is that there are all of these games that they're highlighting here in these fighting collection are things that people have been clamoring about, people have been excited about for such a long time. You look at so many of the obscure and underappreciated and underrated fighting game lists that people always give. A lot of these games are in it. A lot of these games, people talk about. It was funny because I was watching a TK Breezy interview that he did at DreamCon, and when he was talking about arena fighters, he mentioned Power Stone was like the last arena fighter that he played. It's also probably the last arena fighter that I played that I enjoyed. And it was it's amazing that they're actually, giving fans, something to be excited about. You'll see later on in the video, there's a lot of really cool features that are also added in this collection. And I think that really brings to mind the question of what is next for Capcom. They're bringing back a lot of these. We saw that they have the Street Fighter versus Marvel, the Marvel versus Capcom collection also coming. It's bringing a lot of excitement. In addition to that, I made the Monster Hunter video, and like a week or so after that video came out, they dropped another trailer showcasing Monster Hunter Wilds, and then a couple of months later, or a couple weeks ago, they've been dropping new Monster Hunter Wilds trailers. So Capcom is in their bag right now, and it comes to a lot of these projects, and it brings to mind what could be next. So a lot of people have been speculating that we're long overdue for a new Marvel vs. Capcom game. With Marvel in various states of success right now, there are a lot of questions pertaining to what is next, and especially now that the X-Men embargo is no longer in effect, now that Disney owns Fox properties and Marvel has that access to mutants back. There are a lot of talks. We got the Wolverine game coming out. There is the Captain America and Black Panther game. So we could see a new Marvel vs. Capcom. In addition to that, there's been a lot of talk of maybe they're going to be revitalizing one of these games like Project Justice, or the rival schools, depending on what localization you played it in. But a lot of these that were really great games that kind of fell into obscurity. People have been clamoring for a Darkstalkers for the longest time. Like I mentioned, I'm a huge fan of Power Stone and Power Stone 2, even though both of those are very different types of games. But they're in the same series. But there is a good chance that a number of these things that we could see new games produced in any of these series, if there's enough excitement, if there's enough if there's enough buzz on these different games. I think that's a huge possibility, and I think that Capcom has been making some really good choices in some of the games that they're making and the games that they're putting out there. And I think that I think especially for the fans in these particular genres, that's ultimately what it's about, right? Who are the fans that are looking for these things? I think a lot of people have cited the Capcom survey, and I'm actually making another video that references that Capcom survey. And the importance of that survey is the context. When you look at the people that were surveyed, well, it's fans of Capcom. It's people who like Capcom. And so if you're a fan of a company, you're going to be looking for a specific type of game. You're going to be looking for a specific thing. I understand companies trying to branch out and do something different or expand their demographic and expand who they cater to. That's fine. But I think that you also have to take into consideration that by doing that, you may alienate some of your core fan base. And I think that's really the thing here. We know with the whole Keiji Inafune debacle back in the mid 2010s or early 2010s, mid 2010s, when Keiji Inafune was in a position of power in Capcom. There was this huge push to create Western-focused games, and so you saw a lot of series have these facelifts, whether it's Bionic Commando or Devil May Cry. I'm not here to argue about this isn't the video where I'm talking about whether or not those games were good. I think that those games were poorly received more than anything. I think that you can objectively say. And I think there's definitely a level of disrespecting your fan base like they did with Devil May Cry. There's a guy who was I believe he was the director of the Devil May Cry reboot, with the infamous Dointe. He flat out was like, oh yeah, like Dante would be laughed out of any club that he walked into these days. Like a large portion of the fan base did not realize how goofy of a character Dante was. That was part of the thing of Devil May Cry. That was part of the point. And so if you're like, oh yeah, we're not going to do the thing that people realize that this series is about, simply because, we want to make it cool. Well, we weren't looking for that in that game. And so trying to do something different and trying to expand your demographic is not always it. I talked about in the Monster Hunter World video, or the Monster Hunter Slaps video, about how in Monster Hunter Monster Hunter World is very different from a lot of the previous Monster Hunter games. When you play the original Monster Hunter and then you play Monster Hunter World and any of the number of games in between, there are some stark differences. I think Monster Hunter World has been, I think, the most different game in almost all of the Monster Hunter series outside of the spin-offs, you know? Of the mainline games, Monster Hunter World was the most different. And it was because they were trying to expand their audience, because they wanted to increase the Western audience, which they did successfully, because they maintained the core essence of that series. And so you had veterans like myself, my brothers, and my friends who love the Monster Hunter series. The core elements of the series were maintained while doing different things and making some changes, some quality of life, in order to expand your player base and expand the demographic of who plays that game. And because of that, Monster Hunter World was the best-selling game of the series. And even in a game like Rise, which is closer to the roots, and there are definitely some more fun elements and some better elements of Monster Hunter Rise that are not there in Monster Hunter World, it did not perform as well. Even and again, we can talk about the fact that it was originally a Switch exclusive and then it expanded to PC. We can talk about that, but ultimately, World was the most successful game because they expanded that audience and they did it in the right way. And so I think that with that idea, I think Capcom has a chance to really, capitalize off of a lot of the excitement that people have about what people are creating and what gamers are wanting, and specifically what their fans are wanting, because that's the thing. There are a number of people who don't like any of these games, who don't care about any of these games, and that is absolutely fine. They can go play the games that they care about, the games that they like. And if, there are plenty of people who could give a rat's ass about the Capcom Fighting Collection, any of them, or Marvel vs. Capcom. And that is fine, because those games are not the ones that they enjoy. If you have a dedicated COD player and you sit them down and they're like, oh, we have Power Stone 2. And if you're disappointed that the COD player is not excited about Power Stone 2, then I think you should go back to the drawing board of your marketing and rethink how you're trying to get people out there. But I think that Capcom has been making some good decisions in this lane, and I hope that translates into them creating some games and reviving some franchises that we have not seen in a little while. That was really all that I wanted to say. I just wanted to make this video to talk about that. I know it's been a minute. As some of you know, summer is usually the convention season for me as a game designer, both tabletop and video game. A lot of tabletop game conventions, the largest in the US, happens in the summer, and so a lot of my summertime is actually devoted to that specifically. And whether it is preparing games for demos, preparing games for pitches, and things like that. I plan to, talk about that a little bit more at some point in the future here, but sorry for not putting out a video. I just felt, I saw this video on my lunch break, and I was like, I am really excited about this, and I really wanted to make this video. And so there's no script, there's no, planning or forethought that went into this. I don't even know what this video is going to look like. But hey, I wanted to chat with you guys, and I wanted to put this out there. So let me know, what are your thoughts on the Capcom Fighting Collection 2? What are your thoughts on how Capcom has been doing over these past couple of months? There's been a lot of stuff that they've dropped, whether it was Gamescom or different thing, or different places where they've dropped new trailers, or they've made announcements like this, that this kind of seemingly out of the blue, we're going to drop this on you and get hype. So what are you guys' thoughts? How do you feel about some of these other companies like Sega, bringing back Jet Set Radio and Streets of Rage and things like that? maybe even Shinobi and whatnot. Yeah, what are you guys' thoughts? Let me know in the comments, and good or bad, let me know what you're thinking, because I would love to hear from you, and I'd love to have that discussion. I hope that you guys are doing well. Remember, stay excellent, be kind to one another, and stay sly.